A flight attendant removed a black police officer from the plane over a minor issue, but what happened next left her with immediate regret. As Officer Jeremy Pavel made his way down the narrow aisle of the plane, he looked for his assigned seat, only to find a young man already sitting there absorbed in a newspaper. Surprised, Officer Pavel, 31, politely pointed out the seat number and explained that it was supposed to be his. The young man, however, didn't move. He simply mentioned that the seat had been arranged for him. Puzzled, Officer Pavel double-checked his boarding pass and confirmed the seat number. Attempting once more to resolve the situation, he was interrupted by a calm but firm voice. "Sir, please take your seats. We're about to take off." Turning around, Officer Pavel saw a flight attendant standing nearby. Dressed as impeccably as the rest of the crew, her demeanor was anything but warm. Her name tag read Catherine G., and her expression held a touch of irritation. Slightly taken aback by her cold manner, Officer Pavel explained, "I think there's a mix-up here. This young man is in my designated seat." His tone was measured and polite. Without much interest, Catherine gave him an indifferent glance before stating something unexpected. Instead of checking their boarding passes, she informed him that all seats in economy class were booked. The blunt dismissal left Officer Pavel at a loss. He had checked in just an hour ago, and no one had mentioned overbooking. There must be some mistake, he thought. Trying to keep his composure, he asked for a solution, hoping for clarity. But Catherine's response was swift and direct. "I'm sorry, sir, but I might have to ask you to disembark. We're about to take off," she announced, her tone leaving no room for argument. Officer Pavel's eyes widened in disbelief. He struggled to comprehend what was happening. Just as he was about to question her further, Catherine continued, her tone unwavering. "Please, sir, I need to ensure the comfort of all passengers, and you're disrupting that. It seems there's been a mix-up with your ticket, but it can only be resolved off this plane." Her words carried a tone of finality, with a hint of attitude that left Officer Pavel wondering if there was some hidden reason behind her bluntness. Officer Jeremy Pavel couldn't believe this was happening, especially after a long and exhausting month. He was on his way to Florida to submit a final report, after which he'd finally be able to enjoy a 3-week break. Making it onto this plane was essential, his ticket to a much-needed escape from the stress that had weighed him down for weeks. The thought of being denied boarding and missing his deadline was unbearable. Holding on to his patience, he leaned in and spoke to Catherine in a calm, quiet tone, hoping to reach a compromise. "Look, I really can't afford to miss this flight. Could we find a way to work this out without me having to disembark?" He added that he respected the protocols and would gladly cooperate to resolve the issue amicably. But his calm approach didn't sway Catherine, who maintained a detached, unsympathetic gaze. By now, Officer Pavel was frustrated with her uncooperative attitude. He could understand if she was having a bad day, but it didn't excuse her cold demeanor. As he considered asking another flight attendant for help, he was startled by what he saw next. Catherine, who had been treating him so curtly, suddenly transformed, offering a warm smile to a nearby passenger who inquired about the delay. She reassured them gently, leaving Officer Pavel bewildered. He stared, wondering how she could change so completely in an instant. However, when her eyes met his again, her warm smile disappeared, replaced by the same cold stare. The switch was jarring, but unfortunately not unfamiliar. Officer Pavel had encountered those indifferent, dismissive looks before, from colleagues, superiors, even strangers. In each of those moments, there was one factor that seemed to explain the shift: his skin color. Growing up in Brooklyn, he had often faced racial bias and tension. He'd worked hard to rise above the challenges he faced and build a career in law enforcement. But standing on that plane, he felt a painful reminder that those same biases were still all too present. Officer Pavel, despite his suspicions about Catherine's prejudice, chose to approach the situation calmly. He politely requested an upgrade to business class, explaining his official duties. However, Catherine flatly refused, even though another passenger was being upgraded. Unimpressed, Catherine even demanded to see his badge, inspecting it with disdain. A young passenger witnessing the unfair treatment intervened, but Catherine quickly silenced her. Later in private, Catherine revealed her position as head flight attendant and her dismissive attitude towards Paval. She ordered him to leave the plane, seemingly unbothered by her actions. A short while after takeoff, Catherine was informed of a major dispute among passengers. It turned out that her earlier encounter with Paval had sparked a heated debate about the ethics of flight attendants, ultimately leading to a full-blown argument. The young woman who had defended Officer Paval was now facing a hostile crowd. Some passengers sided with Catherine, claiming she had followed protocol, while others argued that her behavior was racially motivated. The tense atmosphere quickly escalated into a full-blown argument. Catherine, worried about her job, managed to calm the situation. However, she began to regret her actions, not out of remorse for dismissing the officer, but because her behavior had been witnessed by many passengers. Upon landing in Florida, Catherine was summoned by airport authorities. She faced a disciplinary hearing, confidently explaining her actions and blaming the passengers for the incident. However, a surprise witness was introduced, Officer Paval. Catherine was shocked to see him and realized the gravity of the situation. As she awaited the consequences of her actions, she felt a growing sense of dread. In a surprising twist, Catherine discovered that Officer Paval was not only a police officer, but also a high-ranking official in the airline security division. His final assignment was to evaluate the crew's performance and report his findings to the airline authorities in Florida. But due to Catherine's actions, his mission had been completely compromised. Although Officer Paval planned to reschedule the assessment, he soon realized that her behavior had already provided valuable insights. Overcome with fear, Catherine's eyes filled with tears as she grasped the gravity of the situation. When given a chance to explain herself, she initially struggled, managing only scattered words. Eventually, she steadied herself and shared a personal story. She admitted to holding a bias against Officer Paval, though not for the reasons he might think. She recounted an incident from years ago involving a black officer who mistakenly handcuffed her during a chase. The experience left her feeling deeply hurt, leading her to distrust black officers since then. Officer Paval listened thoughtfully, attempting to understand her perspective, though he sensed her story might be a last-ditch attempt to save her job. He remembered the way she had singled him out with cold disregard, seeming less like someone hurt by a past incident and more like someone harboring unaddressed prejudice. Still, he empathized with her experience but couldn't excuse her actions. Gently, he explained to Catherine that as a flight attendant, she would inevitably meet people from all walks of life. Given the diverse nature of her job, it was essential for her to set aside personal biases and treat every passenger with professionalism and respect. Listening to his words, Catherine felt a deep regret. She realized that one negative encounter had clouded her judgment, affecting how she treated people. After this meeting, Catherine was suspended and demoted. News of her misconduct spread across the airline, prompting a review of employee conduct policies. By the end of the month, the airline established a committee to monitor flight attendants' behavior, with a focus on ensuring fair treatment across gender and racial lines. Additionally, reforms were introduced to improve hiring and training standards, aiming to prevent situations like Officer Paval's from occurring again. Catherine's story became a powerful reminder to her fellow crew members. No matter what biases or past experiences they might have, their primary duty as attendants was to treat all passengers with respect. In just one assessment, Officer Paval sparked a lasting change that resonated across the airline industry. What an inspiring story. How would you have handled the situation if you were in Officer Paval's shoes? Do you think he made the right choices? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you for watching, and we'll catch you in the next video.